Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, Noel's going to be showing you how to make these delicious, gut healing, thyroid boosting, beautifying orange jello bites from fresh squeezed orange juice. But really quick, before we head downstairs and Noel shows you how to make these orange jello bites, I want to talk to you about 5 health benefits of consuming them. The first health benefit of consuming a recipe similar to this, so something containing a fresh squeezed fruit juice and gelatin, is that it actually boosts thyroid function. In fact, this is actually a direct recipe from our Perfect Thyroid course. You see, fresh orange juice, which is what we're using in this case, is rich in fructose or fruit sugar. And although there is some backwards scientific research that demonizes fructose, this is mostly due to a misunderstanding of human physiology and bias or vested interests. The fact of the matter is fructose and the natural occurring sugar in fruit is highly beneficial for human health and especially thyroid health. It is one of the more easily metabolized sources of energy that we have access to. In fact, fructose is inversely related with diabetes because of the fact that it is almost entirely non-insulinogenic, meaning that it doesn't really require any insulin whatsoever from the pancreas to be metabolized, brought into the cell, and turned into energy. And aside from being a very efficient source of energy, fructose replenishes liver glycogen about 500% better than sucrose and glucose alone. And this is very beneficial for the thyroid because it is actually that stored glucose or liver glycogen that the liver uses to actually convert thyroxine into the active form of thyroid hormone known as thyroidothyronine or T3. So fructose, in other words, is very beneficial for the thyroid, especially in people with low T3 syndrome or T3 syndrome, which basically implies that they don't have enough liver glycogen or some other factors are impairing their ability to convert T4 into the active form, which is the actual form that exerts a thermogenic effect or an energizing effect in your cells. The second major benefit of this recipe is that it is excellent for digestive health for numerous reasons. First and foremost, being a rich source of fructose, consuming this food will help to regulate the blood sugar and prevent low blood sugar. This is beneficial because if your blood sugar drops, there's going to be a spike in your cortisol to try to maintain that blood sugar and bring it back up on the short term, in addition to maintaining your pulse rate and your body temperature. And this is a good thing because in terms of digestion, if you have low blood sugar or if your cortisol spikes too high, this is going to shut off your digestive system by activating your sympathetic nervous system. And in addition to the fructose content and the ability to regulate the blood sugar or prevent blood sugar crashes, the gelatin in this recipe is a rich source of glycine, which in of itself has anti-cortisol and anti-stress effects. And remember, your entire digestive system is ruled by your central nervous system, and in general, stress inhibits good digestion. And also, in addition to the glycine, gelatin is also rich in proline, which helps to support the production of stomach acid, which is what you need in general for breaking down your proteins and breaking down your food to be passed along to the small intestine. And as a pro-thyroid food or recipe in general, it's going to support good digestion because it's actually your metabolism which dictates the rate of digestion. And it's also your thyroid hormone and the production of carbon dioxide via thyroid hormone that is essential for the production of hydrochloric acid, which is why you'll find people with hypothyroidism often have low hydrochloric acid, low stomach acid, and also conditions like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and SIBO. So this is a great food not just for thyroid health, but also digestive health. The third major benefit of this food, which we already sort of touched on, is its anti-stress effects. So both the sugar content and the glycine content in this recipe is fantastic for preventing the stress response from being evoked or stimulated. This is going to prevent obviously the blood sugar crash, which can evoke a stress response, but also, as I mentioned, the glycine in the gelatin actually has GABA agonist effects, meaning that it increases the production of GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that can actually help to prevent the overproduction of cortisol. So typically anything that agonizes or stimulates GABA tends to reduce stress, which is what gelatin does and why it can have a relaxing sort of effect when consumed. The fourth benefit of this recipe is its anti-inflammatory and anti-fibrotic effects. Gelatin is an exceptional anti-inflammatory protein because it is naturally deficient in tryptophan and high in glycine and proline. This is important because when your amino acid profile or intake is imbalanced, your body can experience inflammation. So the addition of glycine into the diet is going to be very beneficial for a lot of people in terms of rounding off or balancing out the amino acid intake or their protein intake, having an anti-inflammatory effect. In fact, there's research that shows and confirms that consuming glycine has an anti-inflammatory and an anti-fibrotic effect, and when consumed over the long term may actually even reverse fibrotic tissue back into healthy, coherent tissue. The fifth and final benefit of this recipe is its beautifying properties, or specifically its ability to promote healthy skin. So acting as an anti-stress substance overall, this is going to be very beneficial for the skin because it is actually stress that catabolizes the skin tissue, makes it weaker and more likely to wrinkle and age. So under stress, your body tends to actually catabolize and atrophy the tissues in the body, including the skin, to convert it into energy. So over time, this is how stress tends to age the skin and lead to wrinkling. But fortunately, the amino acid glycine in gelatin has opposing effects to these destructive mechanisms that stress can have on the skin. It can stimulate proper wound healing and proper tissue remodeling, and basically stop the catabolism of the skin tissue caused by excessive stress. So that's it for my 5 top benefits of consuming this recipe, and with no further ado, let's get downstairs so Noelle can show you how to make it.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be showing you how to make our organic orange juice jello today. The great thing about this recipe is you only need 2 ingredients. It is super simple and really easy to make. You just need grass-fed beef gelatin and fresh squeezed organic orange juice. So we find that in our grocery store we can get fresh squeezed organic orange juice, but if it is hard for you to find that, you can actually juice some oranges yourself. Now if you choose to juice oranges yourself for this recipe, you want to make sure that you're getting Valencia oranges and not any other type of orange like a navel orange. And this is because you're going to get the most juice out of your Valencia oranges. In addition to the ingredients, you're going to need 4 kitchen tools. Tool number 1 is a strainer. So we're using the strainer to strain out any excess pulp that's left in the orange juice. The next tool you're going to need is a large pot to heat your orange juice. Tool number 3 is we're using our Vitamix or a high-speed blender. You can also use a hand electric mixer as well and use that in the pot. We find that in this recipe, the gelatin dissolves much easier in the blender on low, which we'll show you while we're making the recipe. The last tool that you'll need is a 9x13 glass baking dish. Now this is going to hold an entire ½ gallon of orange juice that we'll be using in the recipe. And you want it to be glass because when you cut your Jello squares, it'll be really easy to remove. Now that you have all of your ingredients and all of your tools, let's make the orange juice Jello. We're going to start with our ½ gallon of orange juice, fresh, and going to pour it into our pot through our strainer. Orange juice is in the pot, we're going to turn our stove on to a medium-low heat because we don't want the orange juice to boil, we just want to heat it up enough to dissolve the gelatin. So once you see some steam coming off of the orange juice, that's when you know it's done. Now we're going to pour our orange juice that's heated up into the blender. As you can see, the blender is very full, so we're going to carefully place it onto the blender bottom and make sure that all the settings are turned off and on low. And we're going to turn the blender on its lowest setting and wait for the liquid to form a cyclone in the middle. So from this point, we're going to add 8 scoops of the gelatin into the orange juice mixture. So at this point, we're going to shut the blender off because the gelatin is completely dissolved, and we don't want to blend it too much because then the orange juice will foam up, and that's not what we want. Now we're going to pour the orange juice and gelatin mixture into our 9x13 baking dish. Now we're going to place the Jello mixture into the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours. You can periodically check on it to see if it's solidified or not. Depending on how cold your fridge is, it might be sooner than the 2 to 3 hour mark. Ours, it takes about 2 to 3 hours. Alright, so it's been a couple of hours and now our Jello is officially hardened and we can cut into it. Alright, so that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that this recipe comes in handy for you if you want to learn more recipes like this and how Nick and I eat to support our metabolism, our thyroid health, and our digestion. You can check out our wellness courses in the description box below, as well as our blog and a link to our products. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We'll see you soon.